You and I talked on the phone once, and you were telling me about the difference in like the average American male and European male in terms of fragrance and perfume and what they like and what they tolerate. Can you touch on that just a little bit and tell our viewers what you've seen as a businesswoman dealing with those two markets?
Yeah, what's interesting is that if you ask the average European man what fragrance he wears, he will tell you at least 5 different things, right? Like, he's got it in his repertoire, it comes off his tongue, basically. And the average American might not even wear cologne.
Yeah.
And what's interesting, too, is because it's been part of their culture, it's part of their daily grooming. They wouldn't even go outside of the house without wearing something. And so there's a certain level of confidence in their choices because they know what smells good on them, what they like. And I would say too, like for example, in Italy, a lot of men, straight, they're just straight guys. They love wearing Euphoria, which is a very fruity fragrance, and it's pear, pomegranate, cucumber, aloe, and water lily. So technically, it's also a fruity floral. And the European guy, he's confident in wearing a pink shirt, white linen pants, and sandals in the summertime, or he's wearing a bright yellow or a bright orange shirt, and he's straight and he's very confident in his masculine. So he's a little bit more advanced. So he wears that Euphoria. And I noticed when I was launching my fragrances in Japan, the men there are also very fashion forward. They were wearing Euphoria and Stargazer too. My brother wears Stargazer, and that's got some mineral notes, so it's not so floral. It's a little bit cool, but they're not just wearing the classical, oh, that smells like a man fragrance.
Yeah.
And that really surprised me, whereas maybe it's also just because we're a younger country and men's grooming in the States is just kind of coming into its own, let's say. So, historically we've been we've been marketed to believe that the man who wears fragrance, might be like, the standard Drakkar, which was hugely popular, right? And even Polo, it's still very popular, and people still ask me about Old Spice. So there's still this maybe old programming, whereas I feel like in certain circles, like I love hearing men say, oh yeah, I wear Le Labo's Rose 31. I think that's cool because it's very, it's a let's say floral fragrance, but even the name Rose. When I smell guys wearing carnal flowers, that shocks me, but it smells good on them. It suits their persona, let's say, and they're almost never Americans who are pulling off that carnal flower. It's usually somebody Italian wearing that fragrance, because they have a much more not just openness, but their level of confidence in being able to say like, yeah, I'm going to pull off that carnal flowers because I love that smell, not because some advertisement told me to wear it. It's because they've grown up believing that they know how to make their own choice in what fragrance that they're going to wear. I think that's a huge difference as far as men's grooming, and I think it's really starting to change. Certainly, I've seen that with Sombra Negra, where men will smell that and they recognize it as a masculine scent, but they also recognize it being something different. And then I've also noticed in my collection, Ginger Chow sells well to men, and it's a little bit more coconutty and a little bit more. It's got masculine notes, but it's not a traditional masculine fragrance. But because it's intriguing enough, men will put that on.
Yeah.
So I think it depends on the man, but I would say that it's definitely changing, and I think more men are getting into high-end niche fragrances than they ever have before, and that's a really exciting thing because not only are the options more widely available, but even within the categories, what might have been considered manly or masculine, that's changing too. And so it's not just men are wearing cologne style, fougere style, or a chypre style. Men are out of their comfort zone and wearing floral or fruity fragrance. I mean, I had a custom fragrance, and this Korean guy, like halfway through the fragrance, session, the first thing that went through my head is, oh, he's making fragrance for his girlfriend. And And he said, no, it's for himself. And I thought, oh my God, he's a pedophile, because it was like a young, girly fragrance. And I was horrified. But then he put it on, and I was like, wow, that smells really, and he goes, I know, every time I go to the fragrance counter, I go to the women's section, but that's what, it smells great on him. And so that even surprised me that, let's just get back, forget the marketing, and just see what smells good on the skin. And for him, he's a computer guy, he's not really athletic, he's not gay, but he loves cooking. And so in the end, we made kind of a vanilla, fruity, floral fragrance for him, and he could definitely rock that. I see the average American wearing that guy's fragrance, but it surprised me, like, maybe we need to just take that out of the segment and just, give guys a chance to see what they would wear. And I do have to say, in the custom fragrances that I do, most men who have the opportunity to make their own fragrance, they tend to go actually a little bit more fruity than you would imagine. And they tend to go, I wouldn't say floral, but a lot of men think, I must smell woody, or I must smell like aromatic or herbaceous. But actually, most guys will tend towards, again, in their own custom fragrance, they'll tend towards wood notes, fruity notes, citrus notes, and herbaceous notes. And, just like with food, not everyone likes spicy fragrances. So a man's fragrance does not automatically equal spicy. And that was a big lesson for me, just in my own custom fragrances. Whether you're European or American, it's less about spice than we traditionally think.
Wow. Now I know on the niche side of things, I'm thinking of like two houses like Comme des Garçons and La Tate Libre d'Orage. They do kind of some really out there fragrances, and then you have other kind of designer houses, like I'm thinking like Hermes, where they do kind of more wearable fragrances. How do you make a fragrance that kind of balances artistic versus wearable?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think there's always that part that you, as an artist, you want to make something artistic, and you would love to say, I don't really give a crap if it sells a lot or not. I just want to do it for myself. And you hope then that financially it supports you. But I would say, there's definitely some things that surprised, that I thought were maybe a little bit edgy, that actually sold a lot. Like, so for example, Trumpure, it was a more edgy, risky fragrance for me, but it's still a cult classic. Whereas I made a fragrance called Kismet, and I thought it would be a big success. And to me, it was, and I didn't really receive as much love on that one, even though artistically, it's a fragrance to me that's very complex. It's, Kismet means it's almost like destiny or fate. And I used fragrances, raw materials that wouldn't otherwise go together, but came together beautifully. And there's a secret ingredient in there, which is from, it's a holy oil that one of my friends, whose father is an ambassador, brought back from Jerusalem. And so that fragrance has special meaning to me. But it just didn't get a lot of play. And whether because I only had it exclusively at Barney's, or because I didn't get it out to the press. But it's interesting, where it's I love the jasmine in cigarettes conceptually. Would I wear it all the time? I don't know, or even, I appreciate really conceptual fragrances. I can't remember which one it was, where it turned blue on the skin. It came out of a spray, like a graffiti spray can, and then you put it on the skin, and then it turned blue. I was horrified, because I was wearing a white shirt. I was like, oh my God, what are you doing? And then it wiped right off. And then when Lady Gaga's fragrance came out, and they made a big stink about, it turns black, I'm like, yeah, well, that's so old already. That technology was from the blue fragrance, right? And that tells okay, well, if that's kind of more commercial, where they had the money to make it more accessible and people think it's cool. But at the same time, I think as a small business, you can only take certain risks, because if, let's say, I can't remember which Calvin Klein fragrance it was. I think it was Beyond Paradise, or Beyond whatever it's called. And after, I don't know, I think it was tens of millions, like in a Hollywood movie, if you say, oh, if it's not a $200 million weekend, it's a complete flop. Same thing, this Calvin Klein launch, it was, several millions opening weekend, but it wasn't the numbers that they thought it would sell at, and to them it was not a commercial success. Whereas if I had one fragrance that sold a couple $1 million, I'd be like, I'm going to Hawaii tomorrow. So I think it depends on who you are and what your own finances. But I for me, I've definitely taken on projects that if there was no financial contract at all. It was just like, hey, we're doing an art show. We want you to participate. We don't have a budget, but we would love for you to do it. And a lot of those projects are, for me, the most fulfilling because it pushes the boundaries. Because it's not for a retailer. It's not even for sale. It's an art project. Like I did one for Kearney Street Projects, and I did a scented dinner, basically. So 6 different personalities, and I had like the lover, empress, the intellectual, and the optimist, and Lush. And what surprised me, and I had these in huge bell jars, and you had to like lift up the bell jar and smell it. You had to hold it with both hands, and it was like practically putting on a helmet. And what surprised me is that, like who would want to wear a fragrance called the intellectual or the optimist? Yet those two people almost liked the fragrance, but then they wanted to be that person. So then I found people blending the personas together, and that taught me that you don't have to. It doesn't have to be this like fun, beautiful name that you can sell commercially. It was, and 400 people came to the exhibition. So to me, that was like a different kind of success. There wasn't a financial success necessarily, but 400 people who came to the exhibition. They saw it, they experimented it, they played with it, and they loved it. Like another, art project I did for the Asian Art Museum, I had to choose 4 art pieces in the museum and create fragrances based on that art piece. And one of them was called Lady Curzon, and I really got into the history, and it was, this English woman, she marries the viceroy, they have to go to India, and I just imagined what this English woman, she was actually American who married an English, a royal, and then they moved to England. And I thought, well, what would an American woman who married a royal in England smell like if she were in India? And so I got to, conceptualize this fragrance. And again, no real financial benefit. They did pay me for that project, but it's not going to be sold over and over again like you would make a commercial fragrance and sell it in a store. Totally artistic. It was a one-off. And I love doing it because it was very conceptual, right? Like I couldn't do it any other way. And I think those, to me, are the most fun because it allows me to just be the artist. I don't have to be the businesswoman. I don't have to think about packaging it. It doesn't even matter what it looks like. It just matters what it smells like. And I did a project with a woman who was doing an installation with curry, and we made a fragrance with curry, and I thought it would be horrible. But that was awesome for me because I never used that material, and it taught me that something that you would think is a little bit weird actually made the fragrance bright and fresh and unexpected. And so that taught me to be a little bit more risky, you know what I mean? And I think when I see other people's projects like Andy Tower with his his Tableau fragrances that are all based on, with Ryan Pera, I think it's, sorry, my thing keeps going out. It's based on movies, like old Hollywood glamour. I think it's so cool. Or I think L'État Liberté has a fragrance called Plumber's Crack, and I think it's hysterical. I don't think it sells a lot, but I think it's great, or I love, I think when I see other people doing really cool projects like Anne McLean, MCMC, she picks one place in a foreign country and goes to help out at an orphanage, and then the fragrance is based on her experiences at an orphanage, and then she gives back. I think projects like that are really, really cool. Like I did, the time travel fragrances for 826 LA. The sister store to the pirate store, this is in LA, and they're a time travel place. And so we made a whole timeline of fragrances. We started with Caveman. We went all the way to 2012. This was a couple years ago. So, now it's the end of 2012. But we also made Victorian Violets, Shiraz, Aztecs, Gold Rush. We went through the whole timeline, literally, of history. And, I had to really think about, well, what would a caveman smell like? And you know what? That's their number one selling fragrance in that collection, Caveman. Both because it does smell like dirt, and the name Caveman, it's so cool if you're a guy. Of course you want to smell like Caveman. But, I think, that is so, when you think about that, I think, wow, who need, if everyone could not think about retail and not think about commerce, I think we would have way more interesting fragrances on the market, for sure.
Yosh, what are
it's just liberating.
What are a few of your favorite fragrances to wear on yourself? Not your own.
Like ready-made perfume or raw materials.
Like stuff that's on the market that someone could go buy.
Oh, right. Well, on my vanity, I have Surf Lutin Chagui, and I have Comme des Garçons Kyoto, and I also have Inika's Evening Edged in Gold, and I also have, well, I have to say I went down to LA Lucky Scent, and I smelled their new 10-year anniversary fragrances, and partly because I'm working on something very similar, but I smelled their Bois Bourbon, and it's fantastic. I was like, ooh, $150, I get it? I was like having that moment, I don't need to buy perfume, I have so much stuff at home. But it was one of those things oh, I think I'm going to have to get that. So that's on my wish list. Nice. It's that Bois Bourbon from Lucky Scent. And then, what else have I smelled? I tend to reach, I wear that Kyoto a lot from Comme des Garçons. I like that a lot. And I have to admit, as far as super commercial fragrances, I have to admit, I have a couple of Jolene fragrances. I have the nutmeg and ginger, and I have the vetiver, which I blend together. And then I did go smell the new Christian Dior fragrances, and I really love them. I think it's called Mitzvah. So, okay. They're very exclusive. They're a little bit more high-end. And then I think of, super commercial is a Tom Ford. I think he has a woody fragrance called, I can't remember the name. I think it's also called Bois something.
Bois Americain?
No.
He's got
I can't think of the name.
Arabian wood, oud wood. Maybe one of
oud wood.
Oud wood.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's a little bit masculine, so no.
It's good.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
What are some of the, outside of fragrance, what are some of the hobbies or things you love to do outside of the fragrance world?
Oh, well, I'm an avid reader, so I spend a lot of time at the bookstore. I spend a lot of time, if I have a spare 10 minutes, I'm gonna, I've got 5 books on my bedstand. I'm like, I gotta get back to it. And I love snorkeling, so I love being in the water. I love, of course, eating, if you're a perfumer, I love eating, that is if you can have a really good meal, it's fantastic, right? There's nothing else. And then what else do I like doing? I also like, I think because I travel so much, there's a part of me that doesn't like to do anything, but then there's that other part of me that just wants to continue traveling. So I do love traveling, whether it's for work or not. I just love waking up in a different place and going exploring. Because I think it's so stimulating, whether I'm making a perfume or not. It's just more of course, the internet is so convenient, but there's nothing like waking up to a foreign place and you're like, all right, what am I going to do today? And that excitement, that possibility, I can't sit still, I always want to be doing something. But definitely, when I'm in San Francisco, I could just be inside and like 4 days I don't have talked to anyone and the phone rings and I'm like, ooh, like, oh, I forgot about civilization. So there is that part of me that also, like I just like to be in my own little bubble, which is, I guess it's good and bad.
I'm the same way. I like being alone sometimes.
And I do, yeah. Especially when you have a good book. You know what? I'm going to turn the phone off. I'm in my own world. And, like, especially, like, if you, you read, right? So, like, I love when you get, like, sometimes you hit a cycle where you're, like, good book after good book after good book. And you're like, man, I am in love with life. And you, and then, like, you get that bummer and you're like, oh. It's like going into hell when you get a bad book.
Yeah,
it's
I'm there right now.
Just wreck it because you're gonna go
with the book I'm reading.
into the world and find another good book. So I mean, it's like not just a hobby. It's like it's like a hunt. When you're on a hunt for a good book, it's like I don't know. It's thrilling, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
totally understand.
Bookstores.
Totally understand. I didn't know if you heard me, but I'm reading a book right now, and I hate it, but I have to finish it because it's fragrance related. I want to review it, but I don't like it, and I'm like, oh God, it's torture.
Right. Torture. Exactly. It's the worst.
All right, Yosh. Last question. Do you have any new releases on the horizon that you would like to tell anybody about?
I have a couple actually. So I'm working on a new masculine fragrance that I'll launch earlier in the year in 2014. So it's inspired by the Bavarian forest, and it's not quite ready yet, so I don't want to give too many details out. It's a masculine fragrance. It's inspired by the Bavarian forest. I think for me too, like I've been wearing it, and it again surprises me because I have man skin, so Sombre Negra smells good on me. The deeper fragrances smell good on me. Like Chablis smells good on me, and also like Kyoto scent fragrance is pretty dark and deep too. And I think this one surprised me also because I wanted to play with like a leather note, and I'm usually not a musk fan at all, but I wanted to push myself. I wanted to challenge myself, and conceptually, this fragrance needed the musk. So I was like, all right, I'm playing around with a couple musks. And I'm making my own leather musk board, and I really just love this fragrance. Again, it's not quite finished. I've sent it out to a couple of my evaluators and getting really good feedback. And with a few minor tweaks, we're like really far along. And then I'm working on the packaging, so it's like I feel confident saying it's coming.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be ready on I don't have like going back to that. The challenge of being an entrepreneur, it's like, well, I don't have that marketing budget that says, all right, your deadline is this and this date because it's got to go to the press release this and this date. It's like, it's happening as we go along, so it's coming. And then in the fall, I'll also have, I'll have a project coming out with a big retailer in the fall of next year. It depends if we can, actually, Hurricane Sandy actually put a wrench in, a lot of the stuff that I do because I work with partners in New York, and so hopefully it'll launch. That project will hopefully launch fall of 2013. Otherwise, for sure, spring 2014. So a lot of new things coming on for me next year.
Can't wait to smell the Bavarian forest.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Can't wait for all of them.
Yeah.
Now, for those who may not know you, where can they find you and where can they buy your perfumes?
You can get it at Barney's New York, both in person and online, and then Lucky Scent online, and also Be Glowing online.
Nice. Sounds awesome.
Yes.
Well, this was a blast.
Yeah.
We really want to thank you for letting us interview. It's really a pleasure and honor. I know we've mentioned before just how generous you are to us, and you really helped us out with your line. And in person, we just want to thank you for your generosity and all that you've done. We're not blowing smoke up, up your butt when we say we really love your line. It's really, really fantastic, and we really want everyone who hasn't already smelled it to really go out there and smell it. At least, if they can't go to Barney's, at least go to Lucky Scent and get some samples of her line and smell out the whole line because all of it's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would love to also just gratis you some extra discovery decks for your viewers when this interview goes out.
Okay.
So that, some lucky readers can experience the whole collection.
Yeah, we'd love to. That'd be awesome.
Great.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It was so fun. I loved your thoughtful questions. They were really hard, actually.
You worked it out. You were good.
Yeah.
Great answers.
A really, really great interview. So I think that's it. So thanks.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah. So thanks, YouTube. Let Yosh know down in the comments down below what you think of her, and just give her some love down below. And of course, if you haven't already, subscribe to our channel and like down below. We'll love you for it. And don't forget to try out Yosh's line. We'll see you next time. We're the Fragrance Brothers. Bye.
Bye.